Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing an April wrap up, and you probably are thinking, Jordan, you said you were going to do Q1, Q2, Q3 wrap ups. Yeah, I did, but I managed to read more books this month than I have in the whole year, and I read some really good ones. So I want to sit down and talk to you about the 17 books I read in April and whether I think they're worth them or not, because I read a good few 4 stars, I got a good few 5 stars, so it's been a really good reading month. So let's get into the 17 books that I read. So if I don't show them, it's because I don't have them physically. So if I show them physically, it obviously means I read them physically. And if I talk about them and I have my phone out, it's because I read them on my Kindle. So the first book I finished in the month of April is Dear Debbie by Frida McFadden. This is Frida McFadden's most recent release. It came out in January this year. And this follows Debbie, who has an advice column, and things start to slowly go wrong in aspects of Debbie's lives. Like, she was meant to have a magazine come and shoot her garden, but then someone in her neighbourhood took it. Her husband was meant to get a promotion, but then he was passed over for it. And then her daughter is having issues with her weird boyfriend from school. And all these issues are just grinding on Debbie's gears. And she has decided to take it into her own hands and handle all these situations. And honestly, really interesting premise. I really liked the whole advice column side of it. And as I said with Frida McFadden, and I've said this and will say it again and again and again, she is a hit and miss author for me. Sometimes I absolutely love and eat up what she's written, and other times I don't. With this one, I actually did. And I'd highly recommend it if you're looking for a Frida McFadden and you don't know which one to go into. The Housemaid, and then maybe The Housemaid's Secret and Never Lie and Dear Debbie are probably my favourite from Frida McFadden. So really enjoyed that one, rated 3.75 stars, and would highly recommend if you're looking for a Frida kick that is worth the time. So yeah, the next one was my 5-star, and it actually changed my brain chemistry, I think, and it's Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. In this book, we are following Brianna. We meet Brianna in Part of Your World. She's best friends with Alexis. And then we have Dr. Jacob Maddox. And I've never, ever seen such good anxiety representation as I have in this book. I normally, as I said, relate to the female characters, because when you are a female, it's a lot easier to relate to the characters that, you're represented in. But the way Jacob's mind works, the way he thinks, the way he approaches social situations, and the way, even a phone call, he's like, I didn't have 3 days to prep for it, so now I just need to, it's just gonna happen. And it's just so relatable anxiety wise, and their love story is so beautiful. They both have had a really tough time with love, and they genuinely don't want to find love. They want to have this friendship, but then it leads to love, and it's workplace romance, friends to lovers. He falls first and falls harder, and I just cannot recommend it enough. 5 stars. It was absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait to read The Night We Met. I'm waiting to pick it up, but beautiful story, beautiful writing, beautiful everything. And the way they communicate with the letters and the notes, can't go. The next is What Happened to Those Girls by Carly Greenwald. I'm not going to go into this. I'll just tell you the premise of it because it hasn't released yet. Doesn't release for another 2 or 3 weeks, I don't think. But basically, this girl, her friends abandon her basically and go on a trip without her that she was meant to be on, and they all end up dying, and it's her trying to figure out why they ended up dying, and feeling a bit of survivor's guilt, being it should have been me, or it could have been me if they had invited me. But it's her struggling a lot with her friends and trying to find out what happened to them. And I rated it 3 stars. It comes out on, it doesn't tell me here, I'll include the date. I think it's like the 5th of May, and the description is Pretty Little Liars meets the Blair Witch Project. So there you go. The next is Kingdom of Ash. I finally finished the Throne of Glass series, guys. We did it. I never thought this would happen. I finished this and yours truly all in the same week, and my heart would never be the same. I'm obviously not going to talk too much about this because it is the conclusion to an epic series. The way it ended, I just loved everything. My favourite part about the ending, I think, was actually watching 3 of our main characters say goodbye to each other, because they'd like started the journey together in like the second book or like the first book, and to see them at the end, and I just love Aelin and Rowan, and I loved the world building, and I loved the conclusion we came to, and like Sarah J Maas done had fucked me up with loads of this. Like the ending fucked me up in ways I will never recover from, and that's all you need to know if you are struggling with Throne of Glass series, because I struggled come Queen of Glass. Queen of Shadows, I struggled up to there, and then once I got past there, it was like boom, 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 boom. It amazing. If you have not read Throne of Glass, do not wait 2 years to read it like I did. The next book we have is, I have read the religious experience that is Heated Rivalry. I watched the TV show before watching this, and honestly, I think it added to my experience, and I don't know if anyone ever said that ever, that like watching the TV show was better first. But when I was going into it, reading it, I was picturing Connor's story and Hudson Williams. So it was worth it that way. And it was just nice to see, because obviously I knew what happened because I'd seen the show. It was nice to see how authentic and how much they kept the show to the book. There was very, very little things changed. I think the brother's name is one of the main things I noticed changed that I can think of off the top of my head. There's definitely more that was changed, but I found it very, like, the chemistry that they have in the book, it's evident in the TV show, and like, it's just, I love Ilya, I love Shane. I can see bits of myself in each of them. I can see myself in like Ilya's hardness and his like tough outer exterior, but then you've Shane, who's like this overthinker and anxious all the time and is just a bit clumsy, and I love them. It follows them. They play hockey on different teams, and it's a heated rivalry between them, and you need to read it. And we're coming up to Pride Month in June, so if you want to add a Pride Month book, like a queer representation book, to your TBR, I'd highly recommend adding Heated Rivalry, because it's just a beautiful story. That's all I'm going to say, and I'm not going to talk much more about it, because I'll just go on about Ilya and Shane forever. That's all, like, I just always talk about them. The next one I read was The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. So basically in this book we're following, why can't I remember his name? Linus. Linus is his name. We're following Linus, who works for the Department of something. The Department, I don't know, of Magical Children. And there is this case that has come up, and they basically, because he is so unattached to his job and is just able to write the facts, and the facts only, they want him to be a part of this case that they need help with. So he's sent to this island where there is 6 children living there, and these are the worst of the worst children, that they don't know what to do with them, that they're a risk to others, they're a risk to each other, and it's him trying to figure out if they could sustain living in this house. When I think about these children, my heart wants to break, because I am a youth worker at heart. I work with young people, and my job is about helping young people who, like, not society has discarded, but that they're viewed differently by society because they're teenagers. So it was really interesting to find that. Like, I found a very, like, a big emotional attachment to a lot of the characters, because I was like, I can see a lot of the young people that I work with within these characters, and just they're wanting to be understood and heard. And it's not just about them. I think it's about Linus finding himself a little bit within this house and like needing these kids to help him find himself. And it's a really cute, cozy, magical book. We have sprites, we have gnomes, we have the devil child, Lucifer, and it's just a really, really cute, fun time. But there are those emotional punches that like hit you in the gut. And I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend picking it up. The next one I read is The Tradwife by Carrie Hughes, and I rated this 4 stars. I've had a lot of 4 stars and 5 stars this month. Like, it's really been a good month for reading. But The Tradwife, I'll just give you the premise because it doesn't come out till June. So it's this woman who has followed this influencer online. She is a Mormon wife influencer, and her husband has businesses also. This journalist reached out to her to try and like work with her and like hopefully be her social media manager and build her brand, but she has ulterior motives with coming into this house. And they also have ulterior motives for accepting her into this house. And if you like The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, but make it more like the older school values of like the traditional values of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, what they aspire to be, but make it more toxic. And that's all I'll give you. 4 stars, really, really enjoyed it. The next, and this is one I had such high anticipations for, a novel love story by Ashley Poston. I think I spoke about it quite a bit. That like, imagine being a reader and falling into all the book, like all, the book you love, and like particularly like the series that you never got to finish. Like that would be me if like Chloe Walsh never finished The Boys of Tommen. But I found the concept, and I think I said this a lot in my weekly vlog, cringy. We're going to leave it there. I'm not going to say that word again. But I found it very lackluster. I felt like we could have done a lot with it. I didn't really like Eileen, and I didn't really like our main character Anders. I wasn't a huge fan of them or their romance, and I wasn't really rooting for them. I wasn't really rooting for our main couple, and it's hard to get invested in a story when you're not rooting for the main couple and it's a romance. But the setting I found quite cute, but I just felt it was overdone in a sense. And it just fell a bit short for me, unfortunately. I am really excited though for her newest release, The Someday Garden, that comes out in June. I'm very, very excited for that. I just feel like this one just didn't hit the mark with me like I thought it would. And yeah, we're going to move on. So the next one, I finally went forward in the Windy City series, guys. I finally caught up. This follows Kai and Miller. Kai is a single dad, and Miller is looking for a change. She like is this like big hotshot chef, but she's looking for a change. She wants a break. She doesn't know, does she love her job anymore? Does she hate it? But she has decided she's taking a summer break. She wants to go back and spend time with her dad, and ends up being the nanny to Kai's kid. And it unfolds from there. Actually, though, Miller, her dad, and he's not a dad in the circumstances that you think he's a dad, which I was shocked at, because in her own league I've seen so many people obsessed with it, but I've been struggling with the idea of picking it up because I don't know how I feel about the massive age gap like that. But if it's someone who's like it's obviously someone she knows that he ends up getting with, it's someone around her age. But he's like, it's a different way where he becomes her dad. So I understand why. And now I feel like I can go into it now knowing the dynamic of Miller and Monty. And I just really enjoyed the nanny and the like grumpy dad, single dad, struggling, trying his hardest. And like, she is just, they're just a great story. I loved their dynamic. The only thing is the nicknames were a bit cringy for me. I couldn't cope with that. But 4.5 stars. I'm very excited to get into play along because I did really like Kai, but I think I'm going to prefer Isaiah just from the way he's been in the series. And it's like not a marriage to convenience, but like it's a they get married drunk. As far as I know, it's Kennedy and Isaiah, and they like he's had this like playful relationship with her the whole time, and they end up drunk in Las Vegas getting married, as far as I know. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. Next, we went a non-fiction route, guys. Yeah, I know. Who am I going non-fiction? But I read Beautiful Boy. It was on my TBR for the month by David Sheff. This follows, basically, if you've seen the movie A Beautiful Boy, it's based on this book. David Sheff wrote about his experience of his son's addiction and how it felt, how he struggled with it, how he grappled with it, and like when he finally knew it was time to give up. Not give up, but when he knew it was time to take the step back and be like, I've done everything I can do. My son is now not taking the step forward, so I need to detach. And it's a very, very good representation of addiction, the selfishness of addiction, the impact it has on a family. It is a very emotional read, but I think it's a very important one. And it deals with like his drug use from teenagehood up to adulthood. And I think that's a very important topic, because addiction doesn't just start when you turn 18. Addiction doesn't just start when you turn 20 or 21. And it's an equal opportunities disease. It can take anyone at any time. And if you are looking for something around that topic, then I'd highly, highly recommend this. And I didn't rate it obviously because it is a non-fiction book. It's based on someone's real life stories. And I just think it's a very, very important read. Then I went on to a reread. Did my reread of The Boys of Tommen. I have started. I finished Binding 13 in the month of April. I'm currently on Keeping 13. If you don't know, or if you've been living under a rock and don't know what the series follows, or just don't know what the character's name is, I'm calling out you, Maria, here. But basically, it follows Johnny and Shannon. Shannon has had a very, very tough secondary school experience, and then she moves to Tom in college. She meets Johnny, and their love story unfolds from there. Shannon deals with a lot of issues at home. Johnny's dealing with a lot of internal stuff. And their story is such an important one and such a realistic one for Ireland in 2005. I love The Boys of Tommen. I love Johnny and Shannon's story. This was obviously an automatic 5 stars. It was not going to change for me. But I'm very excited for you guys to see my full spoilers reread, because it's going well so far. But we won't talk too much more about it, because we already knew this was going to be a 5 star. You want to hear about the books that I haven't read and experienced for the first time. So then I moved on to Ready or Not. It is my second Cara Stone book. I read No Matter What. Was it March or February? And that was a 5 star. Genuinely changed my brain chemistry book. I was obsessed with it. I went into Ready or Not thinking that I would be as obsessed as I was with No Matter What. And the only thing I can put it down to is that obviously this book follows pregnancy and being ready or not for pregnancy. That basically it's coming, like when you get pregnant, it's coming whether you're ready or not. If you decide to keep the baby, ultimately it's coming whether you're ready or not. And I found that because I'm not pregnant, or I haven't had a baby, or I haven't had to prepare to have a baby, that I couldn't really relate. But I liked showing that not everyone is ready for pregnancy, not everyone wants pregnancy. Like, because it's unexpected doesn't mean you ultimately have to accept it and be happy about it straight away. Because I think that's the kind of thinking, is that you have to be happy that you're pregnant. But not everyone is happy that they're pregnant or that they got pregnant, particularly maybe at the time in their life or what's going on. But I liked that. I liked the yearning between our two main characters, and that like he's always wanted her and she's never really given him the time of day. And then like for her to get pregnant then by someone else, and then to just like have this found family all together of like this group of people that don't really fit together, but they do. So I really enjoyed it, but just going into it knowing that there obviously is a lot of talk about pregnancy. Our main character is dealing with a pregnancy very actively and is struggling with that, and is struggling with the concept and idea of having this baby, which I found very good. And I think if I was at a different point in my life, or if maybe I was pregnant, I would view this differently and it would have been a 5 stars. But It was a 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I loved the relationship between our 2 main characters. Now, we're on to the books I read during my 24-hour readathon. I started with Tuesdays with Maury. I'm on a real non-fiction kick this month. 2 non-fictions in 1 month. That's crazy. But this is very, very short. It's like 190 something pages. It follows this student going back. He learns... This teacher has had a massive impact on his life. He learns that this teacher is sick through this like Nightline thing, like a TV show, where they're following this fella who has gotten this disease, ALS, and it's his teacher, Maury, that he knew from college, who he had really, really good time for. So he goes back and starts visiting him and ends up visiting him every Tuesday like he would have in college. And Maury wants to impart the last lesson, which is the lesson of life. And I think if you are struggling with the topic of death, handling grief, what happens around that, like, it's all because it's coming for all of us, and it's the one thing that's kind of certain in life is that you live and you die. And it's such a taboo subject that like lots of people don't want to talk about, particularly me. I hate talking about death, and death scares me, which is why I found this really impactful, because he just laid it out very plainly. He was actively dying for the months of his life at the end, but his positive outlook on everything, and then to impart this onto your students so that other people could have it, I found that really, really impactful. And I think if you've had a teacher in your life, and I think all of us have had a teacher in our lives, or a professor or a lecturer who has impacted us in ways that they don't even know, or that they may never know, but it's just really important. And I think everyone should read it in their 20s, or read it at least once in their lives just to say they've read it. Then I went on to Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. This is the last book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. That is a mouthful. This follows Cam and Dusty. And Cam and Dusty, I always say that Gus and Teddy were my most anticipated, but I actually think Cam and Dusty were, because you get just a little snippet of them in like Swift and Saddled, I think it is. And I was just waiting for their story, because it was like there was obviously something had happened between them, but we don't know as readers what it was. And you know what? I would have rather not known what it was, because I feel like it took away from like the tension and the angst between them. So they've known each other for years, since they were teenagers. It was her first friend she made at school. They call him Dusty, but they never call him by his real name, and they make it seem like it's a really big deal. Like his name is like this terrible thing, and it's not that bad a name, personally. I didn't really think that. And I think that took away from the story. And as well, because we're getting flashbacks from 15 years before, like, or however many years before when they were in school, and now. And I found the reasoning as to why they broke up to be quite immature. I found the reason they haven't spoken for so long to be very... Do you know what? Actually, it's not even the reason they broke up. The reason they broke up felt justified. But the way that Cam in particular handles it, I didn't enjoy. And then when we reach a point of conflict later in the series... Sorry, like not later in the series, but later in the book, where we have, like, they're adults now and they're handling conflict, she handles it the exact same fucking way. And it's like, have we not learned in 15 years, Cam? So that's the reason it fell down for me. But other than that, I liked the premise and the idea of it, of like them being friends for so long and all this. Yeah. The last book in the series, and I rated it 3.75 stars. Then I went on to one of my most anticipated releases of the first half of 2026, which is Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. And going into this, I had extremely high hopes, because I just knew going into it, I was like, Jeanette will do justice. I just feel like she'll do it justice. And I genuinely don't know what I read, or like, am I feeling this way in a good way, in a bad way? Did I like love it? Did I hate it? I gave it a 4 stars, but I don't know if that's a negative 4 stars or a positive 4 stars. This book follows Waldo, who is 17, and Mr. Corgi, who is in his 40s. He's her creative writing teacher, and she develops an unhealthy obsession with him. And there was multiple times where I was like, can he please just be the adult in this situation? I don't know, is that the youth worker in me or like that side of my brain? When I was reading it, like I was picking out bits of him where I was like, he's manipulating her there, he's being self-deprecating on purpose, he's making her feel like she's in control. And I do think this kind of speaks to a lot of Jeanette's real life experience, that she didn't have that control within her life. And the way that Waldo, which like obviously Jeanette views sex and the way sex is and the way her body is, I felt a lot, I could relate to that a lot from secondary school. Like I would have felt that way as that like age, but it just wouldn't have been within the exact same setting. It's just the feelings I would have had around my body, I could relate a lot to it. But if you're going into this thinking it's going to be a love story, it's going to be cute, it's not cute, it's not a love story. It's a very realistic power dynamic age relationship that is inappropriate, and where one of our characters is in the driving seat, and it's hard to read. It's not easy, and there are parts of it that I found quite vulgar and crass, but then at the same time very honest. So take with that what you will. I don't know how I sold you on that book or made you not want to read it, but take with that what you will. I've imparted it onto you. I gave it 4 stars. And then last, but certainly not least, I read Beg, Borrow or Steal by Sarah Adams. This follows Emily and Jack. Emily is the third sibling in the When in Rome series that we're following. She's the eldest sister, but the second eldest sibling. But she's always kind of taken on the role as the eldest sibling and has kind of been there for them. They've been dependent on her because they've dealt with a lot of loss. If you've read the first 2 books in the series, you know that they lost their parents very young. They've lost their grandparent who was their step-in parent, let's say. And it's shaped a lot of them to be the way that they are, particularly Emily. She ended up being the one where they all were like dependent on her, went to her for things. She was the fixer of the problems. She very much gave eldest child energy without being the eldest child. And then we have Jack. Jack has been Emily's nemesis since they met in college. Jack spilled coffee on their first date because he was trying to get the front seat and she was trying to get the front seat. He ended up getting it, and she just has this idea of him that like everyone likes him. No one ever likes her just for who she is. Everyone just automatically likes him. He always gets the things she wants. And there's just kind of back and forth over the years of them going for what the other person wants to kind of antagonize them. And he's meant to be getting married, so he leaves the town that they were both teaching in Rome, Kentucky. And then she hears gossip that he hasn't gotten married. And then all of a sudden he's back and living next door to her. And it's them becoming friends and then obviously becoming more. The only issue I had with this was that I felt like the reasoning behind why they weren't friends or why they hated each other so much wasn't substantial enough. And if they had just spoken, maybe, or like, it just felt like a lot of pettiness, but I still ate it up. Like, it was just, I loved them. And this is definitely my favourite in the When in Rome series so far. I've heard In Your Dreams is really good, but then I've also heard it's really bad. So I don't know if that's going to be the new favourite, but this is the favourite so far. I love their dynamic. I love them individually and together. But the only thing is, I wish they would have just talked a bit more, and we maybe could have avoided them like going for like really important things in the other person's life and like taking it away from them and having joy in that. But overall, really enjoyed it. 4.5 stars. So we ended the month on a banger. So that is all the books I read in the month of April. It was a very, very successful reading month. I think it's because I can walk again and like I can leave the house. I just have a new lease on life. So I poured that into reading this month, and I'm so happy because I got so many books ticked off my physical TBR and so many books that I'm so happy that I've now read and can say that I finished and ticked off. So let me know how your reading month in April went. Let me know how many books you read, if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, or if you picked up any recommendations from the books that I read this month. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one.